This is a production of Cornell University.
All right, folks. 10 o'clock, we'll get started here. No Frank today. Frank is over in Japan. He is on an entirely different time zone. So today I'm doing the turf show with Maggie Reiter, and we're going to get to Maggie's work at Sunday and Maggie's work with us, and then Maggie's blog, which I really like. But first, we got to call out our previous guest, Art DeGaetano, who last week Frank really sort of pressured him into giving us a forecast for the spring, and Art said we were turning the corner into spring, from winter to spring, and maybe 3 or 4 days later we get some historic snowfall, especially on the coast. And this is one of the sort of infamous pictures I've seen out of New York City of a snowplow getting stuck in the snow, and now the workers have to shovel out the snowplow. And just to contextualize some of the snowfall that the coast saw this week, 37.9 inches of snowfall in Providence. And that's, as of when I got this data, an unofficial number. And they have to actually convene a panelist of weather folks to confirm and sort of rubber stamp this as a historic snowfall event because it's so much. But you could see on the coast, for those watching, 20 inches at least in a lot of places, LaGuardia, Kennedy Airport. So really, this nor'easter hammered the East Coast. But as you got inland and up towards us in central New York, really sort of just got, clipped by this tangentially, 4 or 5 inches. So really, the folks downstate who are dealing with a lot of this snow. The good news, just as a little forecast here for the next 8 to 14 days, is we should start to see a warm up. And at least in the 7-day forecast, I'm starting to see some above average temperatures, maybe creeping into the 50s upstate, and as well down on the coast. So that should help with snow melt. Now there's probably going to be a lot of flood warnings. I didn't look at maybe the groundwater forecast or the soil moisture forecast, but that's what I'd expect as we sort of melt 3 inches of snow. We're going to have to deal with a lot of surface water running around. All right, so I didn't want to waste much time, Maggie, today, getting to you as a guest. I wanted to start with you being out in Corvallis, out at Oregon State for their field day actually yesterday. And for those who maybe aren't super familiar, the Pacific Northwest is growing grass all year long, and they grow a lot of POA. And one of the primary concerns they have out there is Microdochium patch, also called pink snow mold. So Maggie, you were there the last couple of days, and maybe
Yeah,
just
I'm
get a
so I'm
flavor for it.
still I'm still in Western Oregon now, but we went to the OSU field day 2 days ago. They do this winter field day, which I think is one of the best turf grass field days. It is a must see if you ever get the chance. It's always in like the last week of February, and it's all about Microdochium patcher, and it's all about some of their winter projects. So you can see the pictures here, in my background. This is what it looks like outside. This is the capital, I feel like, of the world for Microdochium patch, and it is like textbook beautiful. It almost looks fake. And so you can see a lot of this is about the Microdochium patch. This picture on the left is trials showing some different treatments and different Microdochium patch management programs. They always have experiments like this. I think some of the stuff that was really interesting to me this year is they're working with Ming Cho at Rutgers on a predictive model for pink snow mold or microdochium patch. And they have been successful with that. So they are able to, they're kind of demonstrating how they would use it. They've been working on this for quite some time. I actually didn't realize, probably 10 years. And I think they started to try to use a model that was similar to the Smith-Kearns dollar spot model, a similar background or kind of architecture. And it wasn't the most effective. So now they've moved into using a random forest, which you and I both love those random forest models, with recent weather and some signatures of like the onset of spring, like accumulated growing degree days. And they are able to predict this within an effective enough threshold where they can take action to apply a fungicide or not. And if they use this model, they have been showing demonstrations over this last winter, you can do less fungicide applications. I think there was one of the treatments had like 2 fungicide applications over this last winter, and it was like providing adequate control of the microdochium patch. So I don't know, I'm not sure what exactly fungicide they were using, but again, it demonstrates similar lessons to the dollar spot model, where if we can keep track of this, there are going to be opportunities to reduce fungicides or delay or skip applications, and now we have something like that for the microdocium patch. So
And it's almost about time for a lot of these other models, right? And the Smith Kearns one is one of the more recent foliar disease models. But even on our forecast website, we have an anthracnose model that's 30 years old. But this pink snow mold, again, a foliar disease. And over time, we have talked about, oh, maybe the Smith Kearns dollar spot model is good. It's just got higher temperature sort of triggers, and maybe you could lower those for the pink snow mold. But it's really cool to see, especially they seem like they're treating very, consistently and routinely for this in the winter months,
right.
probably what, for 4 or 5 months of the
Oh
year.
yes, yeah, from October, November to March, April.
So it is,
Um,
if you think about every 2 week or 3 week treatments on a schedule versus a model trigger that can get rid of one or two of those applications, again, over a fairway of 30 acres, you could start saving some money and
oh
product.
yeah.
So that's interesting. They're doing the modeling work. Any sort of rolling or iron sulfate work? Are they still investigating any of
I think there
those
was some treatment, yes,
non-chemical?
phosphites, Civitas, the iron products. There was treatments of that in this trial that we're looking at here. And so you can see there's some of these plots are, 100% control or look perfect. They told me this is a moderate microdocium patch year. So that's what we would see on a moderate microdocium patch
Wow.
year.
Okay.
Yeah. These are the
So
control
you get,
plots, these kind of two there. Yeah, exactly. Those are two control plots.
mm. So
Or
they've
I
got
mean,
all and that's sort of what I know that Oregon State program for really dialing in is pink snow mold.
yeah.
But it seems like they're also doing some traffic research, and you and I have done some traffic
Oh
research
yes. So
before.
again, I was excited to see this because this is aligned with our interests. So the picture on the right is looking at the effects of golf shoe traffic and foot walking on bluegrass putting greens when there is frost in the morning. And so they've been doing this over the last couple of months, different levels of traffic. And there's been, they had this all written up for us, but there was like 4 or 5 days where there was frost on the grass and they went out and did the traffic. And as you can see, obviously there's some damage that occurs there. There's different traffic amounts, like different number of steps or rounds simulated, and then they broke it into AM and PM, morning and afternoon traffic. Um, One shoe type. So I had to ask about the shoes. So they had the walkers wearing the RTE style shoes where you can remove the soft spike. That's what they were using. And like I said, you can see there's damage. And so I don't, this shows there is some risk if you allow golfers to go out and walk around on frosty greens. But still, at the same time, I feel like we see on Twitter, golf course superintendents are like, oh, yeah, there's frost. Shrug, I don't care. I let people go out there. So
Mhm.
this tells me there's a lot of like nuance to this. And there's the air temperature and the soil temperature, how much moisture is actually in the canopy. But this does show me that you can get damage if you're not thinking about that.
And it sounds so like, oh, of course there's going to be frost damage, but you're right. There's been a lot of people. I know Micah has been sort of a strong proponent of, yeah, just like sort of let people go out there if
Right,
they
right.
damage it. And really, we haven't tested these things very vigorously over the years. And there are those questions of POA versus bent. Is there a difference
Oh,
there?
sure.
Is there a difference when, you're in the Pacific Northwest climate where these grasses are growing the entire time of the year versus over here where maybe they're coming out of winter dormancy, and does that play a role? And this risk
Yep.
reward of, do I let people out? Do I collect money? I think about this mostly for public courses who are daily
Right.
fee, right? Who can make some money by letting people out,
Yeah.
versus a private course who, collects memberships. They don't need to necessarily be that sensitive to daily play. So that was interesting. They're doing some traffic research. And then the last thing you mentioned to me was nematode work. And I know Emily Breathwaite has been doing a lot of that. Not only products to control nematodes, but sort of soil properties, right? And that's something she's looking into.
Yeah. Yeah. They showed us some of their experiments this week. So Emily's doing some really interesting work on the nematodes, of course, like kind of surveying and mapping them across the entire Pacific Northwest, even into California, and learning a lot there, trying a variety of different products and programs, as well as like the kind of decision-making models about when to apply or when to treat. But something they talked about that again is kind of aligned with our interests is looking at water infiltration rates with again some they have some pretty sophisticated devices. I should have put a picture of it in. They have to measure this. But basically like the water infiltration rates, which is something we can measure, soil physical property that we can measure, has impacts on your nematode like populations and nematode severity because they need water to move around. So, if water is able to move around, they are able to move around. And, there's air and you need that for turfgrass health. And so there's a lot at play with the soil physical properties, including or similarly organic matter too. And they're just starting to get a grip on what that looks like and how we could possibly try to manage our soil to be more or less hospitable for the nematodes.
Yeah. And we don't talk about, you know, the extent to which I talk about nematodes here in the Northeast is in the entomopathogenic context, where we're using nematodes as good things and
Oh
applying
yeah.
them to control white grubs. And Kyle Wickings, our ecologist up in Geneva, has looked into that for white grub control. And we generally don't think a whole lot about nematodes as parasitic and although I think there's certainly evidence of it up here, it's not nearly the problem it is in places like the West Coast or Florida, where it
Right.
seems like just a constant battle of different kinds of nematodes. You send it into the lab. How many thousands do you have per cup cutter, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
the work Emily's doing, because they'll apply quite a few nematicides, right? And it's expensive.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah. So all right, so there's the update from the Oregon State Field Day. Now I want to talk about all the cool stuff you write about and work with both at Sunday and your blog, Maggie. So for the folks who've watched the show for a year or two, I've featured a lot of Maggie's blog content, which is really sort of I would classify Maggie as like finding data everywhere. And one of the cool ones you did last fall was these 311 calls to New York City, sort of the Department of Parks or Public Works. And you explain so where this data is, what this data is, and then what you looked at with this data.
Yeah. So this is data from the New York City 311 platform, which is like it's a phone app, it's a platform where you can go and report issues you see that the city needs to address. It's everything from like, trash is overflowing or there's potholes. And so I was looking at something on it related to trees. There's a lot of like trees fall in or broken branches. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. But I noticed they had like a classification of a report called overgrown grass and weeds. And I thought, wow, how interesting. Let me
Mhm.
look at this. So the figure on the left is just showing like, yeah, the weekly average of these requests over the year, over the growing season is kind of, and I saw this and I thought, oh, this kind of looks like turf grass growth potential or cool season grass growth potential, where you have the spring peak and the fall peak and a little bit lower in the summer. And on the right side, that's 1 year where the dotted line is turf growth potential and the solid line is the amount of requests or service requests I got about weeds and grass. And so I thought, okay, maybe this is driven by, the plant biology. So let me try to see if I could predict that with weather, which is what we use to predict turf growth potential. Um, but once I put this all together into a model, I think random forest again, I think, but it turns out that the weather adds almost nothing. And the strongest predictor of how many grass and weed complaints or service requests that you're going to get is just like what week of the year it is. Um, and so I even took out okay, it's what week of the year it is, and then the previous week's complaints,
Yep.
which would be like, duh, of course, this week's complaints are going to be similar to last week's complaints. So I even took that all out, and I even had a model where I said you only get weather information. And what came to the surface or what it latched onto as the strongest predictor was just historical weather normals, which is like a proxy for the week of the year.
Right.
So live or real-time weather did not add a lot to trying to understand like the fluctuation of these service requests.
Yeah. So that's an interesting the biology of weeds and grass. And when we think of when would weeds or grass be overgrown, especially in municipal parks that don't get sometimes the amount of maintenance they need to, you'd think, oh, that's spring growth surge, and that's certainly what it is. But when you paired it with each individual year, it didn't quite line up with how the spring growth surge where that exactly might line up in based on, temperature. So maybe this is more of like a human behavior thing. People in, you
Yeah.
see the peak like early May is sort of, it feels like, okay, it's springtime. Is this just a calendar-based people problem, not necessarily a biology-based plant problem?
Yeah, that's what I take from it is it's you also got to understand this is a public reporting platform. It's also who complains or who points these things out. And there's been some research on like gentrification and how it's related to noise, more or less noise complaints that are filed on this platform. And
Mhm.
so that there could be something at play there with this specific topic. Um, and when I think about like, operationalizing this, if I was a New York City Parks Department, I would say you don't need any fancy models for this. You just look at your average week complaints per week, year over year, and just use that to kind of plan out what you need to do. And it's obvious stuff like there's more complaints in the summer. There's no complaints in the winter time. But you
Mhm.
can do this all in just an Excel table. You don't need anything sophisticated.
You don't
Um,
need random forest or
no,
XGBoost or
no,
right, right.
no,
So
not yet. Yeah,
I love the idea of you taking this sort of feedback as data. And then one of the other things you do, I wanted to touch on quickly was this blog post on the lawn care company reviews. So you had a lawn care company, you took all the reviews online for this lawn care company, and then you sort of looked at good reviews, bad reviews, what were some of the trends? What did you find here? Sort of the high level learnings.
yeah. I scraped all the Google reviews for a pretty large regional lawn care company, lawn care service that was in Texas. There was over 1,000 reviews, and I did what we call topic modeling or topic clustering to try to see what were the positive reviews about and what were the negative reviews about. And again, it's this headline. There are no reviews that are about the grass seed or the fertilizer rates or what kind of fertilizer they're using. The majority of the reviews are about the staff and the service and professionalism and the communication and some of these things that we see here. Um, of course, so the top topic there is professionalism. That was in the most of the reviews. Most of the positive reviews remarked about technicians being polite, professional, and friendly. Good results is a second topic there, and that's kind of like a baseline. Of course, you need to have good results on the lawn, but it's also a really generic term. It didn't those reviews didn't go into a lot of detail, but people just say like my lawn looks good and something about the staff and the service. So communication, saying when they're going to come, explaining what they're doing, answering questions, and giving the homeowner lawn tips on site. That's important. And then there is one about weed control too. So ability to control the weeds. That's probably the
But
biggest agronomic concept that comes up in these reviews.
and it's ultimately a service, right? And I think this is
Yeah.
we see some of this, and we've done this in golf course reviews of, the pro shop. I really like the people in the pro shop, or I really hated the people, or the starter was mean to me. Things
Yeah.
that are governing the overall experience that go beyond how we're managing the grass and sort of the functional performance of the things we're providing. So this gets us to another lawn care company, the one you work at, Sunday. And I don't know if we've talked a whole lot about it on the show, but maybe you just give a high level of what is Sunday and sort of who are your customers and maybe how it's unique in
Yeah.
the grand scheme of other lawn care companies.
So Sunday is a direct-to-consumer lawn care subscription. And the way this works is you go to the website, give us your address, and you'll get your lawn analysis. If you sign up for the Sunday subscription, we send you 2 to 3 boxes of fertilizer, grass seed, weed control products over the growing season, just at the right time. The products are very easy to use. The little picture there has like our liquid fertilizer pouch that hooks onto the hose. We'll send 4 to 6 applications of that in a year. So this is customized and it's based on a lot of this underlying data we're looking at here. We get aerial or satellite imagery, we get property data, we get their soil profile from the NRCS, climate normals, and then we also something interesting I think is we do a free soil test for every customer that does sign up. So we have the predicted like sand silt clay there that comes from the web soil survey, but we also take a soil test at each customer's lawn and we get that physical. Oh, there you go. Yeah, we get that physical yard data for them specifically.
Yeah.
So yeah, the customers are homeowners that have lawns.
Yeah. And one of the so I think it was 2 years ago, maybe at Crop Sciences, you spoke about Sort of the influence of the soil test, and you have hundreds of thousands now of soil test
Yeah.
results from Sunday customers. And so you have this data and you can actually pretty accurately predict the chemical properties, organic matter of basically all the locations, most of the locations in the
Yeah.
United States, right? Based on your now database of soil tests. So you can really accurately predict what you think the soil test is going to be. But you guys still send a free soil test kit for people to do at their home. Why is that important? Even though you probably already know the answers that are going to be in that soil test.
Well, so you're right. Once we have a soil test of a lawn, we have a lot of information about the whole neighborhood, with some level of confidence. I actually I checked
Mhm.
this week. We have 30 soil tests of lawns in Ithaca. So like that tells us we can map the whole city. That tells us a lot about
Mhm.
what is in the soils, and they're quite consistent, in a neighborhood and across the city. Um, so we have hundreds of thousands of soil tests. We have so many that we can predict the outcomes for a new soil test location. And we have had discussions about like, do we even need to do this anymore? Because we can just make predictions with a high level of confidence and be able to assign the right nutrients to that lawn. Um, but the answer is we still are doing this because it's fun, it's a really unique part of the customer experience. People like to do this. It's like it's the start of their Sunday journey. It gets them out in their yard and just looking at their grass and looking at their soil. And we have this little kit here. It's actually like an apple coring tool that they use to
Mhm.
to stick into the grass and get the soil. So like that experience is so valuable that's a
Mhm.
part of the reason why we keep doing this. And it's good to get more data and especially ground truth all these things. But it's a lot about just the human experience of it.
Yep. And I think you called it empowering the homeowner to sort
Yeah.
of I know, and you guys are offering these custom fertilized blends based on the soil tests, based on their climate and growth potential and soil texture. But it does give them some ownership over, oh, this is my lawn, and I'm doing something, sort of that active impetus of like, this is the first thing I'm going to do, and now I can commit to, a year or 2 years of
Yep.
managing my lawn is what I like. And I have on the screen here when I think of homeowners and their lawns, I think of people who lack expertise. They don't know that soil physical properties are important. They don't know what soil chemical properties are important. So they lack expertise and then they lack direction. And one of the things I was actually just doing yesterday, I was going through your online free sort of customization plans. I put in my
Uh-huh.
zip code and it asked me what I want from my lawn. Do I want a really healthy green lawn? Do I just want sort of green turf cover? And that's something I talk about all the time when I'm doing master gardener trainings is
Mm.
before we talk about what fertilizer, how you mow, how you irrigate, you need to tell me what you want out of your lawn. Give me a direction. What is the goal? And I like that you guys sort of cue people like, okay, you're ready to take care of your lawn, but what do you want it to be? It could be really
Yeah.
green and dense, and there's things we can do for that. Or it can just be like, hey, ground cover, my kids and my dog are out there. And that's pretty intentional by you guys of trying to span that gradient of servicing people on all ends of that spectrum.
Yeah, so that we call that our funnel that you go through, and part of it's designed to build confidence and help the user or the customer go through that and think about those things and be intentional.
Yeah.
Um, And what was I just gonna say? You brought up a good point about we use that to customize some of the products that they give. But what I was gonna say is we started big learning that we had is we started off we treated all lawns the same. We didn't have all those
Mhm.
questions and we treated all lawns the same and gave them kind of the same product assortment. But over the years we've learned a lot about what you just said. Like people have different needs, different types of families, like different, all the different grass types we know all about. But um we've layered in a lot of those questions and optimized them over the years to get the right information that we need to help them be successful with their lawns.
Yeah, even things like predicting their lawn size. Homeowners don't know
Oh,
that their lawn is 3,000 or 10,000. They
right,
have
right.
no clue. And I think one of the, I don't have the data here, but for you guys sending products, you don't want to send product for an 8,000 square foot lawn when it's only
Right.
4,000, right? And that's an error that not only costs money, but also costs sort of environmental cost of applying.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we have a very sophisticated model too to predict lawn size, and that gets us it's not perfect, but it gets us within an acceptable plus
Yeah.
or minus 1,000 square feet, which is enough to decide how much fertilizer needs to go there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you guys have how long is Sunday? Man, has it been like 6 years or
Oh
seven?
yeah, I guess I keep saying like 4 to 5 years, but it's been since 2019
Wow. Okay.
established. So, it's like going on 6 years now. Yeah.
So you've got this database of soil tests, and now you've got this database of customer feedback. And this was a presentation you gave at the California Weed Science Society, where you talked
Yeah.
about all these communications that you get from customers, if it's emails or texts or voicemail. And again, you package that into data, and you looked at a couple aspects of that data. So when you guys get customer feedback, what is sort of the primary thing? I guess let's focus on agronomically, not like the service or how much they're paying or whatever, but
Yeah.
the lawn problems across the country and maybe even in California specifically. What are like the
Um,
biggest problems they have?
the biggest problem is definitely weeds. People
Weeds.
remark about weeds that's like at the top kind of inquiry or what they need help with. And especially in the springtime where there's, a little more of, we have a lot of activity, a lot of people signing up for plans. And so weeds is number one. And we can talk more about that. I would say then second is like bare brown spots or patches caused by drought stress or summer stress causing like drought conditions in the lawn turning brown and wilting. That's the second thing. So that's about watering. Um, but like a new kind of lens we have of looking at the questions is basically our top question. I just was looking at this recently is what do I do right now? It's like a
Uh,
timing related. It's the top question is like, what do I do next or what do I do right now? And is it okay to do this? Is it this time of the year? It's a lot of like, is it too early? Is my lawn green enough? Should I do this or should I wait or should I do pre-emergent or should I wait? That is like the top question by far. And then when we think about agronomic topics, it's weeds and it's drought stress problems.
okay, so this comes back to this. There's almost like a cyclical approach from homeowners and people in general of they sort of come back to the same time of the year. Maybe it's early April or mid-April or whatever, and it depends on the certain region of the United States probably, but that just happens to be the time of the year where they look outside and they're like, I've got time to do something on, the third weekend in April. What should I do? As opposed to like the ideal agronomic sort of program, which follows weather conditions, prevailing weather. So you've got people who sort of have these discrete time periods of the year where they care. It's tough to fit in like, sort of this customized lawn program into those sort of discrete periods of time where they're paying attention.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I mean, when we think about timing, the issue is people are always late. They're like, more than I guess a lot of right now is can I start? Can I go? Is it too early? But through the rest of the growing season, they're always behind. They're like, oh, I got behind, help me get back on track kind of stuff. And we work very hard on this, everything from the shipping to the web experience to the packaging, we try to make it easy as
Mhm.
possible. And we say exactly what to do at exactly what time, but people still get behind, and
Reducing the friction, right? Trying to
yeah,
lower the
yeah.
friction of everything.
And I mean, it's been a good experience. I worked in extension for 8 years or so, and it's just like this is not a priority for people the
Mhm.
way it is for me or the way it is for us. And I think like they do need reminders and they do need to be helped every step of the way
Yeah.
because this is just not a priority, when they have two kids and two dogs and full-time jobs and all that. They don't want to learn about turf grass in the evening. They're not reading about turf grass on the internet.
Mhm. Right.
So
But
yeah, we take care of that for them, but that's something that we still continue to work on to keep
it's a
people
balance of
on
giving them
track.
enough sort of ownership over the process to be invested in it, but
Yeah, yeah,
still doing the complicated things sort of for them that that they're probably not going to do. And this brings us to the last sort of point before we get out of here. And I'll look for questions if folks have any of them. But you guys, it sounds like you're going to debut this new Sunny sort of customer experience tool that maybe will assist people. Will it cue people to do certain things during?
yeah,
Will it give them sort of push messages or email messages? What is this going to look like in a
yeah.
new?
So this is what we're looking at here is Sunny's. It's our AI powered or LLM powered lawn assistant. We've been working on it for 2 years and it's on the website right now, but we are going to have a mobile app coming out soon. And this is going to be sort of the key centerpiece of that is the
Mm.
ability to chat with Sunny or talk to Sunny as well as like we're going to have yard check-ins, ability to send pictures multiple times of the year. And then we'll use that to, again, like maintain context of that customer and that lawn over the growing season, over frequent checkpoints, and again, help them take better care of their yards. So this is just one view of what it looks like. You can go in and type anything, or you can use these questions to kind of get started by just clicking on them.
And you've done this for our sports field website. Well, not just ours, but all
Oh
of the
yeah,
sports turf websites. That another blog post of Maggie's that we'll have the link below in the show description here. But you sort of built a LLM tool to scour all of the various sports turf websites that are out there. And if a person wants to type
yeah,
in what are the ideal soil physical properties of a sports field, it will scrape all that information, sort of package it in a really
yeah.
nice way. And this is the same sort of deal, right? That you're gonna
Yep, exactly,
allow
exactly.
customers to have that experience. So, all right, we hit 30 minutes in turf, Maggie. There it is.
Okay, wow,
We almost hit it on the nose.
good job.
No questions from folks, but Maggie, thanks a bunch for joining me today.
Of course.
We'll be back at it again next week for episode 4. Let me just make sure we don't have any stuff. Okay, yeah, no questions. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Frank's back next week. Buckle up.
Bye, Carl.
See you, Maggie.
This has been a production of Cornell University, on the web at cornell.edu.